that's kind of a shift in my mindset. And I haven't really been in, I don't think, after paying it off, I've had a car payment. But I've done the Dave Ramsey thing. I wholeheartedly believe in Dave Ramsey's first three steps. It's like, I don't think there's a better way to starting off life. Get an emergency fund of, I think it says $500, $1,000, something like that. Sell whatever you got to. Sell your car or your shoes, sell clothes, go sell plasma, whatever you need to do. Get a safety net. That way, when an emergency happens, you're not stressed. Okay. So Tanner, we often sit here and we talk about investing and buying businesses. We talked about once or twice. And in my opinion, all that starts before you can invest, before you can buy a business. Buying a business is an investment, but it all starts with your personal finances. What are some things that helped you out personally with finances, books, education, um, learning from mistakes, whatever? What's kind of your history, your walk with personal finances?
Yeah, so I'm definitely no expert in personal finances. I advise people on how to take what they have now and create more with it. And along the way, I try and give them tools and to be a little bit more responsible. But that's really what it comes down to is discipline and responsibility. And the most successful people in their personal finance journey are the ones that are the most disciplined, and they commit to a plan and they stick to that plan. They don't venture out. Um, so and I don't know if it was a podcast or a book or something, but they're talking about how most of the people that are extremely successful in business or whatever are terrible at managing their own books. And they have to hire that out, but that is part of the responsibility, is that if you realize that you are not good with QuickBooks, I am terrible with QuickBooks. I can't wrap my head around the software. It's meant to be dummy, friendly, but it's not, trust me. So I would much rather hire someone to handle those things for me, and that's the responsibility. So, and it's funny, my wife and I, we read a lot of books, and so the one that I just got done reading, and we in the middle of it just took a look at what each other were reading. I was reading The Wealthy Barber, which if you haven't read The Wealthy Barber, it's all about, take the 10%, first 10% and invest it into slow mutual funds that, are certain to go up over time. And, it just the slow route to wealth. She's reading The Millionaire Fast Lane, which is all about, like, the opening paragraph is like, this isn't your grandfather's, get rich slow book. And so it's funny just to see the two different perspectives. And my wife and I have very different risk tolerance. So we talked previously about risk tolerance. She wants to take risky bets to make quick money, but she doesn't have a good stomach for risk. I'm more risky. It's very weird. I'm more risky, so I read things that are the opposite, that teach you to be a little bit more conservative and make smarter bets. So it's a good dynamic, and I think that we are complementary when we need to be. That otherwise, if we're both just super risk averse or super conservative, then it'd be interesting to see how successful we could be.
Something you said reminded me, and I don't know whether this statistic is accurate in the least, but I've heard multiple times that wealthy people, like 100 millionaire plus people, on average, have gone broke 3 times.
Hmm. Have you ever seen that guy that he's on social media? He goes around asking people not the just what do you do for a living, but there's a guy that he pulls them aside and says, hey, what do you do in Miami to be able to afford such a nice car?
Yeah, I think most is around cars, right?
Yeah, a lot of them are, because there's that, I can't remember, Dan guy, whatever, where he just goes up and says, hey, what do you do for a living? And then they go, give him a tour of their house or something. But there's another one that he sits down and asks them, what's one piece of advice that you wish, you want to leave with the younger generation? And, have you ever been broke before and stuff like that? And every single one of them says, oh yeah, I've been broke plenty of times. And like, love listening to those things, especially when we're, between commissions, because it's tough,
Mm.
but being able to see that it's just normal part of business. Like, not everyone has the stomach for that.
So through your ebbs and flows of personal finance, what are some? I know you've kind of hit on it before, more on the investment side, but what are some of your learning experiences, be it from books or just ebbs and flows in general?
Yeah, I think diversification is the biggest thing, is finding multiple income streams, because when one well dries up, especially if they're not related, if your income streams are not dependent on each other or not synergistic, then real estate could crash and burn and I'll still have other income
So,
streams.
what is diversification to you? What's your definition of diversification?
Um, I would say against different asset types. So not solely investing in multifamily, investing in multiple some industrial, some land, some development, um, geographic diversification. Maybe not all my eggs are in Omaha, having land holdings outside of, and then industry, like, all my investments aren't going to be in real estate. I'll find income streams in business, and and among those same diversification. So, and then the diversification of risk. Like we have some properties that we're going the low and slow route of just parking money, letting it sit there and compound over the next 20, 30 years in a property. And then we have some where we're risking a lot of money to flip a house and make quick cash. But so that's the diversification, is both are real estate. One's low and slow, one's high risk and quick.
So, no stocks, bonds,
I
mutual funds.
no, I liquidated all my stocks and my retirement accounts, everything, and put it all in real estate. And so now taking that and trying to buy and build more businesses. That's kind of another diversification, is I'm putting the work in now to build businesses. Like, I have a partner in a smart home installation business, and he's phenomenal. He does the majority of all the work. I, do the back end stuff, but that investment of time and money and resources will pay off someday when real estate maybe no longer is providing for me, And so it's just planting those seeds, because that's all it is we're planting seeds for a later date. I don't know when that one's going to pay off, but someday it will.
Yeah, so I actually hate the word diversification from the standpoint of most of the time it's used diversify your stocks, buy a mutual fund. But in today's market, like you'll hear it, buy a US large base, small, large cap, small cap mutual fund, buy an international. Um,
Mm.
they move together. Like, go back to 2008 when the US economy took a crap. What happened? Europe took a crap.
Mm.
Greece went bankrupt. The international markets had to start bailing them out. I don't believe in diversification of the markets, which is stupid because if you go look at I still have stocks and stuff like that.
Mm.
They're all your traditional mutual fund, large cap, small cap, international, uh, emerging markets.
Mm.
So I say one thing and then in practice I'm doing something else, but I'm constantly looking at it and like, is this a smart bet? Because I don't think putting it all in mutual funds or stocks or whatever. I understand the benefit of a mutual fund over buying 10 stocks just because it is more like you can have, you know,
Diversified.
yeah, yeah, you can have, energy, technology,
Hmm.
medical, you can go there and yeah, technology might be taking a hit right now or
Right. If you have some balance.
medical, like, so there is a little bit of balance there, but as a whole, like, if tech crashes, other stuff's going down with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the same thing is, I don't necessarily believe putting everything in real estate because, especially, we live here in Omaha, we invest here in Omaha. I think Omaha market's a little more insulated, but it doesn't. The risk is a little lower because it doesn't appreciate as much, but
Mm.
also doesn't depreciate as much. So it's kind of
Right.
so your risk is less, but your upside is also less. Um, so it's kind of taking all that and figuring it all out. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, do you always want to be like you like more industrial, flex space, retail stuff like that? I like multifamily. Uh, should I look more into the commercial? Maybe, but I don't know enough about it right now to say that's where I want to go. Would it be nice to own a Walgreens that you got a 30-year triple net lease on, and Walgreens just pays you for, and it's pretty safe,
Mm.
and you don't have any management expenses? Yes, I mean that would, but that's not where I'm at.
Well, in my theory with triple net, commercial real estate is it's not where I'm going to grow my wealth. It's where I'm going to park my wealth and flipping houses, bringing in more commissions, whatever I can do to go out and sell a couple businesses, build up my cash pile. I'm going to take it and park it in commercial real estate because I believe it's safer over time. Multifamily is great, but it's another business. You're still in the customer service business, and it's just a different avenue. Whereas I want to be solely in the real estate ownership of mailbox money, and not really running a business of investment properties. Because in multifamily at scale, that's what you have to do. And we talk about a guy that owns almost 5,000 units. He has built a service based business. Everything that he does is service based, and he owns a lot of units because of it. But that's not really what I want, And at one point, we have that ego of I want as many units as possible, and then I realized, not really. I'd be happy with 1 million square feet of commercial space, and that I manage myself, and maybe I have a leasing agent on my team, and that's it. But the goals change over time, and I think the more multifamily deals I've seen, it's like the more I'm kind of gearing towards, those triple net deals. But there's a time and place for both of them, you
So
know.
how do you get there? Say you're a 22-year-old college student, $100,000 in debt. Well, we'll lower it. Say $25,000 in debt. Don't own anything. They might have a $10,000 car that they bought to start off college, and that's all it's worth. And they're getting their first job. What do they need to do in order to? What good personal finance things do you think would work for them,
Well, I think
or
a,
work for
a
anybody? Not
person in
necessarily
that
them.
situation starts out thinking, should I buy crypto? Should I buy real estate? Should I, buy gold? And most of them are crippled in debt.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no investment that you can pay off that's going to be a better return than paying off your consumer debt or your credit cards or whatever. If you can leverage against your car, say, you have a $10,000 car and you paid down 6,000 of it and you have 5,000 credit cards, pull the equity out of that car, pay off the consumer debt, and stop spending your credit cards. Just, leave those balances paid off, and, don't close the cards down because that ruins your credit too. But get out of a bad situation first, lower your monthly expenses as much as possible, and then you can focus on stockpiling while you educate and investing in your education. The, what is the best investment that you've ever made? The best ROI?
You're, I know where you're going with this investment in yourself, but
And how much did it cost you?
oh, I spend too much money on myself.
Well, you do now, but when you first got into that, before you even got into the industry, did it take $50,000?
No, I mean, I signed up for probably free bigger pockets thing
There
and
you go. It just took your time,
send
right?
a message, and then they said go to these meetups and
Mm-hmm.
start going from there.
And for me, it was buying books. Like I have gotten more ROI out of going to a yard sale and just being on the hunt for books. And every time I go to yard sale, that's all I look for is books. And I probably hadn't read anything, including my textbooks, since grade school. But those books, they cost me $1, and the knowledge and education that I get from those books might make me $10,000. So what's the ROI there? People are like, I want to know what is the best investment for me is learn what you're doing, or go work for somebody that can teach you. If you provide value to someone else, then, if someone said, hey, can I drive you around town just to, you know, be around when you're doing deals, I'd be like, please. I'm tired of driving. I love to drive, but when I'm working and I'm doing deals, I don't driving is like the thing that takes me away from my work. And so if someone was to do that, then I'd be like, yeah, I'll show you whatever you want. I'll teach you how to do this.
So that's funny you mentioned. I know a guy lives out in Washington. He has about an hour commute to and from work each way, and he bought a Tesla just so he could basically not drive. I mean, obviously he's driving, but so that he
Mhm.
can work
I've thought about it.
that hour drive that he's on the interstate. He can make calls. He
Hmm.
can do all that stuff, and because he has a W-2,
Yeah.
but so that's 2 hours of work that he
Yeah.
gets in. So, what's your opinion on a budget?
Hmm. So
Man,
my wife and
someone's
I,
making all kinds of noises.
yeah, my wife and I talk about this all the time. We right now, I just gave our oldest daughter, who's 18, the Total Money Makeover book.
Okay.
My wife was not thrilled about that because she doesn't agree with a lot of the envelope principles and stuff like that. And my theory is that Dave Ramsey's stuff is phenomenal for those who are financially irresponsible. And when you can learn the framework of just how to be responsible with your money, you can afford to throw out anything that he says that you don't agree with. But for those that are coming right out of high school, they don't have any discipline yet. So using those tactics to gain discipline to then go and build your own plan in the future, that's great. We're at the point now where we don't budget in the sense of having like separate bank accounts where we put this much money in here and this much money in here, but we take a percentage of every dollar that we earn, we tithe immediately, and whether it's 10, 20, 30%, that's non-negotiable. And then of the remaining amount, we'll take 30. Our goal is 30% to reinvest into marketing. Sometimes it winds up being a lot more than that, sometimes a lot less. And then whatever's left, we either are investing into deals or we're just using as spending money. And what we have found is that the more deals that we have going on, it forces us to invest in those deals. Because if we're flipping a house right now and we need to put you know 15,000 more into it, we can't afford to be going out to the movies because we have to keep covering those expenses. And so it's like a forced savings almost, and I enjoy it. But
So, what's Nicole's issue with the envelope system?
uh,
Sounds like you do it in a way.
yeah, we do, but it's more fluid than the envelope system. And the discipline with the envelope system is, if your gas budget is expended, you know they advise against taking from your food budget to pay the gas, or vice versa. So she doesn't like that separatism to it. Like, it's more of, I need to pay for this thing and I'm going to pay for it. you know so I don't. And we'll do one trick that we've done is when we pick up side gigs, just go out and make extra money, we take that money and put it into a savings account. My wife, has a savings account that it's an added step of difficulty to get to access the money. So the only time we're going to touch it is when we actually need it. And very quickly, it turns into 4, 5, 6 grand, just in a few months. And we don't really notice the difference. So stuff like that has helped. But um, I mean, one thing that is reviewing your personal financial statement regularly and tracking your net worth growth as compared to your income. I couldn't tell you what I make, per year, what I gross, what I net, but I can tell you almost to the dollar what my net worth is. Because when you start tracking your net worth that granular, you see the things that you do on a day-to-day basis that affect it more than others. Like that now, going out and ordering that $6 cup of coffee, you know, sure. I mean, we might have the money for it in the bank account, but what does that do for my net worth? It lowers my bank account $6. And if I do that every single day for 365 days a year, then I've lowered my net worth by $2,000, So anyways, I think that's the better advice that I could give is start to learn what kind of activities have more of an impact on your total net worth or assets under management, as we've said before, um, and pay less attention to what you're making per year.
Why less attention, I guess?
Because I think that people fall into the income creep. They go from making $40,000, $50,000 to 120, and their lifestyle increases with their income. But if you're focusing on compounding your net worth growth, then you're not going to be as focused on, I made 120,000, and so I should deserve to spend some of that. You get this sense of entitlement from, but I don't care. I mean, my bills are all paid for. I don't get the same ego boost out of what I make per year as I used to.
Yeah, my family hates me because I keep saying, they always say two words drive me absolutely nuts. I need and I deserve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, like you don't need it, you don't deserve it, and you ain't earned it.
Yeah.
So,
I just finished a book that said, I can't remember what it was, but they talk so much about when you can get out of the I need mentality and get into the I want. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be wealthy. I want to be wealthy. That's why I work, is because I want to be able to provide a better life for my kids. And I don't want to have to ever tell them no. So, but do I need it? No, I have everything I need, So that's kind of, I just think that there's a lot when you are starting your personal finance journey, money has control of you because it's like you have this attachment to every dollar that goes out and every dollar that you're making, and even just little things like when we go out to eat, like we're going to pick up the tab, and some people take advantage of that, and when they do, we don't take them out to eat anymore. But it's just a thing that we do is just, you'll constantly see my wife getting into arguments about who's going to pay the tab and whatnot, but I enjoy that. And our attachment with money isn't so much. Otherwise, you'd be like, he ate 13 chips. Can you split it, into 3 sections or whatever? There's no need to have that kind of attachment to money. And money is a tool, and it's only as good as you use it.
yeah, I think people always say, going back to the budget thing, people always say, well, I don't want to budget. That's too rigid for me or whatever, or I don't budget. And I would say everybody budgets, whether you realize it or not,
Mm.
some way, shape, or form, you budget. Because if you don't, hey, I'm looking, we were talking about getting our pilot's license and stuff like that. I'd love for you to pay for me to get my pilot's license and buy me this plane so that I can get it. Because you're not on a budget and you don't have any money, you can just spend money freely.
Mm.
Whether you realize it or not, whether you make $100,000 a day, a month, a year, in a lifetime, whatever it is, that's your budget. And it controls your mindset. Or, yeah, it controls your mindset, controls your thinking, controls your spending. So, realistically, you have a budget.
Mm.
So, once you start, it's my opinion, once you start taking those, Jake and Gino call it paper soldiers or whatever they
Mm-hmm.
call it. Once you take those soldiers and start allocating them to the field where they need to go, okay, you mentioned tithing, so going there, going to marketing, going to food, going to gas, going to housing expenses. Once you start allocating those things, and it can be fluid. I'm in the same mindset, that you were saying. I don't want to not be able to drive my car to the grocery store because I don't have any money
In
in my
that in that
in that
folder.
thing, but I
Yeah.
have plenty of food. Like that's just in my opinion stupid. But
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with Dave Ramsey. Consumer debt, get rid of it. Get rid of the credit card debt. Get rid of um, the car payments, unless you get a really good interest rate. Uh, but for the most part, get rid of that stuff. Like you don't need a personal line of credit that you run up to go because you want to go to Macy's or wherever you're buying stuff at.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of all that stuff. Pay cash. Use a credit card. Pay it off at the end of the month. Whatever. I personally use a credit card for everything. I think you're different in that,
Mm-hmm.
but I set all my credit cards up that I pay them off on the first of the month. Boom.
Because you have that financial discipline.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when you were 18 years old, you didn't have that discipline.
No, I'll go back to trying to think of when this was. I was 21, so this has been like 2002. I was $30,000 in debt. A lot of that was car payment,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't even know what that would be now. What, $60,000 in debt
Mm-hmm.
roughly now, today's dollars, and I didn't know how I was gonna pay it. Like eventually, in 4 years, I ended up paying it all off, but that's kind of a shift in my mindset, and I haven't really been in. I don't think after paying it off, I've had car payment, but I've done the Dave Ramsey thing. I wholeheartedly believe in Dave Ramsey's first
Mm-hmm.
three steps. Like I don't think there's a better way to starting off life. Get an emergency fund of I think he says $500, $1,000, something like that. Sell whatever you got to. Sell your car or your shoes. Sell clothes. Go sell plasma. Whatever you need to do. Get a safety net. That way, when an emergency happens, you're
Mm-hmm.
not stressed and can't afford it. But do that, pay off all your consumer debt, and then get an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months. Like I think that's the best advice. I remember if it was last summer, it was summer before last. Our air conditioner went out middle of summer. Like if I didn't have that safety net,
Mm-hmm.
like
It
it'd have
was,
been like how do I afford to I'd have been
yeah.
financing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's what happens. I remember going back to a business thing, looking at a business and just kind of reading their thing. And I want to say they said they they work with financial institutions and they finance 70%, so they get revenue from that additionally because they're
Mm-hmm.
helping sell those income streams to the banks or whomever they're financing it through. 70% of their air conditioners and heaters are financed.
Hmm.
Like that's a large portion.
Yeah. Well, and you're saying about credit cards is that you pay them off every single month. I personally have learned that I'm not good at that. I carry a balance, and then that snowball comes back against me. And so we don't use credit cards at all anymore. Like we basically close them all down. I mean, I have some business, in our businesses, we have credit cards set up, but we don't do that consumer debt. It's cash or debit all the time. And sure, we might be missing out on points, but the interest rate that I'm paying on the portion that I didn't pay off is a lot more than the rewards points that I could be getting. And so that's just me personally choosing or deciding that I don't have that financial discipline.
You brought up a great point right there. The reason why there's two reasons why they offer the points over the on the credit card and you don't get on the debit card. When you swipe your card and hit credit, they're charging you 2, 3, 4, 5% on top of. Well, they're not charging you. They're charging
The vendor, yeah.
wherever you're buying it at. But if everybody used cash, that would lower cost at the grocery store 5% right off the top.
Hmm.
So that's one of the reasons they do that. And in other words, what you just said, people don't pay it off. So yeah, they can afford. Like I just paid off. We bought some furniture upstairs in Nebraska Furniture Mart. 24 months interest free.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did the math. Like okay, if I pay $350 a month for 12 months or whatever it is, it'll be paid off.
Mm-hmm.
I just paid my last payment. I actually overpaid it like 200 something dollars, which I'll never figure out how to get that back until I buy more furniture. But it's a whole different story. Um, but most people won't do that. They won't do the math, and they don't realize that it's 24 days from the day you purchase it. From the day you charge it, or 24 months. I think you
Mm-hmm.
said days. Um, and then they're going to charge you all that back interest
Yeah.
as soon as it's free up to you
Until it's not.
till it's not,
Yeah.
and then you're paying all that back.
Yeah.
And so, like, I refuse to. I pay too much interest in my life, and I don't mind buying it on an asset that's paying for it, but
Mm.
not on something that's a consumer debt. It's just
Right.
it is it's too costly. Like
Yeah.
22% on a credit card or 28% or whatever it is a substantial amount of money. You buy something $100,000, whatever it is, and by the life of it, you paid like $500,000 on this thing.
Mm.
So if you're just barely making the payments, so same thing with. I watch a lot of Dave Ramsey's little snippets on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and there's so many times like this one guy. I remember him and his wife. They both had advanced degrees. I think he might have been like a doctor, and she had a master's or something. They're both working for the government,
Mm.
and they're both making. They get $300,000 in debt, and they're making $60,000 a person.
Mm.
I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you like? You'll never get out of debt with that. Like, if you want to do government and help the government and all that stuff, one of you can stay in, but the other person needs to use that advanced degree and
Yeah.
go make $300,000, and then you go back to the government after that.
Yeah.
But like, people get themselves in so much debt. Our society trains you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about need versus want before. Um, like they teach you that you need this when you don't need it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they charge you for it, and then they keep charging you.
Have you listened to or read was it The Monsters of Jekyll Island?
Creature.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm actually reading that right now.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of it, and it's just everything you're saying is I
How far are you? Just side
um
note.
probably 3 or 4 chapters in. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a 600-page book.
Yeah,
I'm like
it's
150 pages into it. So
yeah, but it's good. I mean, that's a lot of what you just said is what they talk about is I mean, the whole system was rigged against the consumer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was in 1930s or something, 1920,
Mm.
prior to the Great Depression.
Yeah.
They started the system, but yeah, it is unless you educate yourself. Like I'm all about debt, leverage,
Mm-hmm.
all that. I think it's uh, beneficial for growing wealth over time. But when it comes to consumer debt or consumer spending, it can hinder you for life.
What was that thing that I feel like we did in the past recording? You said was it like evil has 4 words, but so does love. And
What does that
no,
mean?
must have been my other podcast, but
Mm.
well, so it was basically this thing about like, all these different words that have, one set of letters. Is like friend has 5 letters, but so does enemy. And like, basically it's all about perspective. That's how I feel about debt. It's like debt can be either a tool or it can be your downfall. Like we use debt to do more bigger deals, create wealth faster. But when in a high interest rate environment right now, it's like I'm not looking at deals that I can just put 20% down on. Like I'm looking at 40, 50, even 60% down payment. If I can't come up with that 60% down payment, then I'm probably not going to buy the deal because they just don't make sense right now. And if I have to, borrow money from a friend or family member just to come up with that extra difference, and I have to give them a portion of the deal, like, that's fine. 50% of a good deal is better than 100% of no deal, right? But people from the last 5 years have just been like over leveraged. It's 80%, loan to value, refinance it as soon as possible, and just all this stuff. And to a point, I get, in order to increase your compound return or your compound growth, you need to recover your seed capital as quick as possible, which is, I mean, it makes like 10% cap rate means that it's going to be 7 years before you recover your full initial investment. Is that something like that? But right now, I think that parking money and riding the waves is the way to get through it. And that's just my philosophy. So if it means investing more money into a deal you already own just to pay the debt down so that way you can increase your cash flow position, that's probably a better investment than going out and buying new ones. Or does the property that you already own need new windows and you can maybe get a little bit more rent out of it by doing that? It's probably a better investment than any else.
You think you can make more rent money by just changing windows?
No, I mean, I think my point is the little things that you can do in your property.
I got you. I just had to give you a hard time about windows.
Yeah, maybe if they're, letting all the breeze in, and it's just, I don't know.
No, I got you. But in this, we're getting off the topic of personal finance, but I guess I look at it differently, because if I have to go out and raise money, get equity, or get money for equity in a deal, why wouldn't I try to just put more debt on it? That's me personally, because debt is cheaper than equity. In the long run, debt is cheaper than equity.
Yeah, and I think when I'm raising money, like for the flip we're doing right now, we raise debt, but I'm not going out and getting more bank debt. I'm structuring the debt how I want it on my terms, and it's almost, it's not a take it or leave it. It's a conversation, but ultimately this is what I'm offering to be a part of this deal. Mm-hmm. And they're usually pretty favorable. So
yeah. No, I mean, when you do it that way, I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of someone putting in money for equity. That's just a personal preference. Now, if someone wants to, if I want to partner with someone, if you and I want to partner in a flip, and
but they're active roles.
They're active.
Yeah.
Like, I find the deal, you manage the contractor and list it, or whatever it is.
Right.
However you split up, but it's an active role versus I would rather do a debt deal, because in the long run, it's better for me. I mean, just to be selfish. But with that saying, like, I'll pay 12%. Someone wants to give me $100,000 for a flip. Like, I'll pay 12% on that money. And
this is hypothetical, not an advertisement to.
No, that's an advertisement.
SEC has entered the chat.
No, I mean, if you put it as a debt deal, like, you just write up a promissory note, but yeah, it's I would much rather do, and that way it's guaranteed for the other person. Like, win, lose, or draw, whether I make money, lose money, whatever, you're getting your 12%.
Yeah.
So it benefits you as well. It's not like it's completely selfish for me.
Yeah, no, of course.
But if they pay for the flip and I could make $100,000 just for round numbers, or I could pay them $12,000 and take home $88,000, or do that then 50-50, or however you split it up. I mean, it could be 70-30 or whatever. But,
yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah, we got way off personal finances on that one. But yeah, I think, I mean, even using that as a personal finance, like if you're saving, you don't have consumer debt, and you have $100,000 laying around, you're like, that sounds interesting, that I can make 12% on my money by talking to Ryan and using it for some of his flips. Like, that's a good return. You're not getting that in the stock market.
Right.
And that's cash money today.
And we're trying to teach our kids that too, is like with this deal, if they've got, like my son is 12 and he's mowing the lawns there. And so we pay him $60, to mow the lawns. And then, I'm going to tell him, do you want to invest this $60 bucks into the deal? Like learn how the returns go. And because basically the way that my kids' personal finances are, they get Christmas money from grandma and grandpa, like all kinds of stuff. Um, birthday presents, Christmas gifts, stuff like that. Or just every once in a while when they're doing an abnormal chore, like the household responsibilities, that's you got a roof over your head, you're gonna wash some dishes. Like that's just kind of the expectation. Um, but if they're going out and doing something above and beyond, then we'll pay them for it. But the rule is that they're not allowed to spend that money on any consumer goods. They can't go buy toys. They can't buy video games. They can't do any of that. They have to invest that into their lemonade stand or into a lawnmower or a rake or something. And then they go out and make more money with that. And the money that they profit from whatever business they choose to do, they can spend that however they want. And so now, my son's kind of like, well, can I invest this money too? I was like, you can, because now he wants to see it compound even further, And so doing those little things with kids, it's, we can see the growth happening, but adults aren't doing those things. They feel almost like above it, but you should start those principles of, well, I don't spend earned income. I only spend passive income. And if you start that philosophy, it's going to take a long time, granted. But even if you just invest your money into, dividend paying mutual funds, or, you invest $1,000 a month into your mutual fund, every year you're going to get 5% of that back, and you reinvest dividends and all that stuff. Like, it is definite. It will go up over time. You will, eventually replace your income, but it's a very slow, boring process.
Yeah, definitely boring. I
So,
mean, you don't have to do anything.
yeah.
Realistically, you put in a mutual fund that pays dividends and just let it grow. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's just so many different ways. Like I said, I've been thinking. I think you earlier you said something about cash out your investments, your 401k,
Mm-hmm.
Roth, whatever you had, and I thought about doing the opposite of that. I guess in a way, taking it all, putting it in, take my 401k if and whenever I walk away from my W-2, because it's a Roth 401k, putting it into my Roth, and then taking that money and like I was talking about, if anybody wants to invest with me, and get 12% of their money, like there's hard money lenders that I can give, say, $100,000 to. They'll pay me a little bit less, but 9-10%,
Mm-hmm.
and then they basically arbitrage that money, and they make their money off from that. But the reason why I can't do that is because technically, or not technically, legally, with a investment account, it has to be arm's length. Like I can give to you, and you can give to me, but I can't give to myself.
Right.
So that's kind of my reasoning for that. And then take that 10%, because I still feel that it's a guaranteed return
Mm-hmm.
versus the stock market. So,
It's safer. I mean, I never use the word guarantee because that's how you get your
well,
feelings
it's
hurt.
guaranteed unless the company goes,
Yeah, belly up.
but,
Yeah.
and that goes back to make sure you believe in the company and ask those questions. But my biggest problem with the stock market, people say all the time, numbers don't lie, people do.
Hmm.
I would argue numbers lie. And what I mean by that is when you talk to somebody, you look at the stock market and they say our average annual return is 8% or whatever, that they say. Well, that's great that your average annual return over 10 years is that. But I can show you, you can give me $100 and I can double your money. I give you $200. That's year one return. And then next year, I'll lose that $100. So you got 100% gain the first year, 50% loss the second year,
Mm-hmm.
and now your average annual return over 2 years, you're still at $0 total, but your average annual return is 50%.
Hmm.
So, like, That's why I like IRR and other calculations for it. But
They're subjective, yeah.
it removes all the time factor. But when they say average annual return over, I mean, they don't have to say a time period, but
Hmm.
average annual return means multiple years. But you can, in theory, have made no money but still have a positive annual return, average annual return. And so
Hmm.
that's what I really hate about the stock market is when they say that, like, well, on average, the stock market's return 8% over any 10-year period. Okay, but what has been the actual return of
Hmm.
that money? When you look at it on a dollar,
Right.
uh, on an IOR, however you want to,
Yeah.
anyhow, we're getting into financial weeds on that one. Way off from the,
Well, so in closing, what do you think is the most important personal finance principle that people should, take to start their journey?
I think, I forget the name of the book, which is a financial makeover or whatever. I think that's an excellent book to start. Like, I gave it
Total money
Total
makeover.
Money
Yeah.
Makeover. I think Alyssa was like 14 and I made her read it. Just to plant the seed, like you said. I am not a fan of debt. I don't know where I'd be had I not had that $30,000 in debt at
Mm,
21 years old.
no.
If I'd have had that education to never get a credit card or to never utilize a credit card like that and to run it up, I think I want to say it was like $8,000 or something on in credit card bills that I had. And then
Mm,
I had a 20 something $1,000 car on top of that. And I don't know what I was getting paid in the military at that time, but it wasn't much.
yeah.
So, I mean, luckily I got to go on deployments and uh, TDYs and stuff like that that increased my money.
Right.
And when you're deployed in Iraq, you're not spending much money. They didn't have Amazon at the time. So, like
Yeah.
I wasn't getting anything. So all that money was going into savings.
Mm,
So that helped me. But yeah, it's don't get in debt from the start. Don't finance education.
mhm.
Don't within reason. Like, I mean, if you need to go to school and you need $5,000 to live, and you're going to be done in 3 years, 4 years with your degree, okay, that's pennies on the dollar for the education.
Mhm.
But when people get these large educations and got $300,000 in debt and they're making $60,000, it just doesn't make sense. Like
Mhm.
you're never going to pay off that debt at, I don't care if it's 4 or 5%. You're you're never going to pay it off and live anywhere close to a normal life.
Mm.
And so that would be my thing. Just
Yeah.
use Dave Ramsey's baby steps.
Well, I think for me, the best advice that I can give is to start tracking your personal net worth regularly, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually.
So what is net worth? Just
It's very simply put, assets minus liabilities is what do you have that, like you said, Dave Ramsey said, go sell things. You have to sell your shoes, sell your, expensive purse, but all those things are assets. Home furnishings, everything that has a value minus what you owe, for those value. It's, just simple profit and loss. Not profit and loss, but assets and liabilities. And so, we have on there jewelry, we have home furnishings, electronics, lawn, our lawn care equipment, and
you
personal
track all that.
vehicles, all of it. Yep, put all of it on there on a personal financial statement. On the SREO, statement of real estate owned, we only put the rental or like real estate properties that we're currently holding, and any fractional ownerships of like we own a fractional percentage of a lot of units.
So do you put the purchase price or do you put what you think it's worth today?
It depends. Well, because I'm a real estate broker, I will put what I believe it to be worth, and I'm not going in there and pencil whipping and saying this. This duplex is worth 600,000. It's we're putting accurate estimates of it. Where if we had to liquidate right now, what would we be able to sell it for, or what would we be able to pull out of it? Because you might have selling costs, and so I put that amount. But the having an updated personal financial statement just helps you see how your behavior affects that number. And not that it's a number that you need to tie your ego to, but just to know, what are the most financially sound decisions that you're making.
So you look at it from like a future planning standpoint, meaning, okay, historically this has done me well in growing my net worth,
Right.
and this has hindered me. So less of this, more of this.
Exactly. Yeah. But more or less, you can see that kind of stuff happening in real time, and then you can adjust accordingly. So,
Yeah, I used to do mine, try to do it monthly, and I noticed when it was doing it monthly, it went up a little bit faster than when I don't do it.
yeah, absolutely.
So
All right. Well, till next time.